Hey everyone, come along with me to visit Oceanside Museum of Art's Transformative Currents exhibit. Unfortunately, it literally just closed this month, so you won't be able to go see it, but I'm sure they have great new exhibits now. I'm going to be going through and giving you guys some of the information that was on the labels for all of the installations and telling you a bit about my personal opinions and what stuck out to me. And also, I know I did not get every single installation. There were some that had some audio problems that I skipped over, or maybe it was crowded and I didn't feel like filming very much. So there we go. We're just going to get through what we get through, and there's a lot of good stuff, so I'm excited to share it with everyone. So I stumbled upon their Persian heritage event happening outside the museum and started by watching this traditional Persian dance. I was very brave, and I even went up and danced when she called everyone to come up and dance, but it was very awkward and it didn't really get better. But this lady was amazing and beautiful at dancing. Then I went inside the museum because they had free entrance. It was the first Sunday, and I found that the Transformative Currents exhibit was showing. This exhibit combines art, science, and history to ask the question, can art cause positive change on the Pacific Ocean? I was drawn to this exhibit because I love the combination of art and climate science. I believe that the only way to face the changes that we are experiencing without despair is by doing so through curiosity and reverence. This exhibit does a fantastic job bringing many aspects of the Pacific Ocean and our human interaction with it to the 3D experiential level. Things that otherwise might have been seen as crises or terrifying, anxiety-inducing are this way seen as interesting insights into our world, the world around us, and the nature in which we live and interact. So it's quite beautiful. Starting off, when you first walk in, you are confronted with this huge 3-panel gouache painting of bull kelp by Genevieve Robertson. The paintings reach floor to ceiling, placing you right at the scale center of the bull kelp. I was struck by how standing close and slowly lifting your head could give you the feeling of being enmeshed in this ecosystem. In addition to gouache, I still don't know how to say that, Robertson used kelp, asphalt components, and seawater to produce the stunning details found closer up. With the use of kelp, it makes me wonder if they were used to print the images on the painting rather than just recreating it all by hand. Next to those, also by Robertson, are some more gouache paintings created with pieces of asphalt, coal, and seawater, highlighting the human impact on the ocean and its creatures, specifically referencing the impact of oil spills. Included are an unidentified seaweed, sea lettuce, whale vertebrae, and stingray. Again, the details and sparkles are absolutely stunning and make me think about the ways that human industry impacts the inner composition of life forms as well as the overall ecosystem. Is our impact visible on the cellular level? What have these plants and life forms adjusted to? The next installation spans a few walls created by Fran Siegel and composed of drawings, paintings, pastels, maps, fabric prints, and porcelain lamps and boxes. This installation focuses on 4 coastal wetland environments in Southern California: Seal Beach National Wildlife Refuge, Bolsa Chica Ecological Reserve, Upper and Lower Newport Bay Nature Reserve, and Borderfield State Park. I want to start by looking at the porcelain boxes. Their construction reminds me of milk cartons, but I think that's unrelated, I'm not sure. Siegel used porcelain to emphasize the fragility of the Pacific wetland environments. There are 100 cubes in the installation referencing the 10 million annual shipping containers coming in and out of the LA ports. Each cube contains a word or phrase, some touch point for the concepts explored in the exhibit. Continuing her use of porcelain, Siegel created 12 lamps with corresponding fabric prints. I'm not really sure that they're prints. It looks like they're kind of painted on fabric. I'm not really sure what to call them. But they represent native pollutant filtering plants in the Southern California wetlands. These include Frankenia salina, cordgrass, pickleweed and jamea, salicornia, estuary seabite, saltwort, alkali weed, shoregrass, californicum, saltgrass, and eelgrass. There are also 2 hanging lamps resembling seaweed and wetland plants, emphasizing their fragility and filtering properties by filtering the light. And then I want to take a look at all the maps and drawings. These are maps of the Southern California coast and wetland reserves. Different aspects are highlighted in each map, either drawing attention to the primacy of the water through its vibrant hues or to the possibility of its absence through cutouts. Perhaps the cutouts allow the blue walls themselves to represent the water, indicating the inseparable link between our environment and us. Siegel actually involves the walls of the exhibit themselves in a few ways, allowing her maps to bleed off the page and continue directly onto the walls. I also found Oceanside. Then finally, Siegel has these amazing renditions of the environments themselves. I'm not sure if they're graphite, pastels, or what, but the label just says pigment on paper, so we'll go with that. My favorite is this image of the ducks. I thought the details were incredible. When I was looking at the exhibit, a woman told me that this drawing of a fish was created by making an actual print of the fish. I don't remember if they put the paper on top of the fish and shaded with a graphite, or if they just put pigment on the fish and pressed it into paper. Either way, she told me this was a way that people record their catches. It's interesting, though, because I feel like the level of detail in this image does not indicate a print to me. It seems much more methodical, but maybe the artist started with a print and then added the details. In the next room, there are more audio-visual installations. To the right is the video Way Pagutro, Nothing Has Changed by the Bahia Warriors. Through historical reenactment, the video emphasizes the importance of the well, Sitio 37, at the center of the Bantian island known as Bahia. On the front wall, 3 televisions display Charles Lim's video, Sea State 7 Sandwich. I was super intrigued by this as it displayed panoramic videos of the Singaporean coast, but rotated sideways and sandwiched together. I'm always interested in presenting new ways of video footage. In this case, the vertical stripes merge and blur the boundaries of sea, sky, industry, and vegetation. It also forces a grand, blurred, big picture image of the reality of the extent of human industry. The scale is almost zoomed out, displaying various times and places to help us wrap our head around the extent to which our industry extends. There is also the nearby Sea State 7, the inarticulate Sandman. It features a very close-up video of Fu Se Huan, a former sandman or worker involved in Singapore land reclamation, which is involved in removing and transporting ocean sand. The title is a little condescending, I feel like. The label explains that this is in reference to Fu Se Huan's disjointed and contradictive story, and the close-up framing works in tandem with this to evoke the feeling of discomfort and unease derived from the ecological disruption involved in land reclamation. I don't know how I feel about this piece, as I could not hear the man very well. Well, okay, to be honest, I just didn't have the patience. Please don't crucify me. But I think that workers' issues involved in climate change are super important. I'm a big believer that we should not necessarily condemn the workers involved in environmentally disruptive industries, as they are often forced into those jobs to make a living. Intersectionality is important especially in climate activism and reform. These are social issues, and those who profit extremely are much more to blame than workers who make a living. Anyways, the next one is one of my favorite video installations, Holding On by Angela Tiatia. This is a 12-minute video where we watch the artist lay on a cement slab in Funafuti, the capital of the archipelagic nation of Tuvalu, as the sun sets and the tide comes in. Over the course of the video, you watch the waves come higher, rocking Tiatia as she struggles to stay laying on the slab, and you watch the light darken as the sun sets. These effects create a sense of urgency and evoke a somatic connection to the artist, who could be seen as a representation of the islands of Tuvalu themselves, as the highest points of the island are only a few meters above sea level. Okay, next, there is this lovely 3D interactive installation by Jane Chang Mi and Elle Frank. The title is in a different language, and I could not find any pronunciations online, so I'm going to try my best. It is called Muyuki Hish Po Pution, She Will Dream Many Things. This installation was created in homage to the indigenous and environmental history of Minar, one of the Channel Islands off the coast of Southern California. It turns out this was the island depicted in Island of the Blue Dolphins, the book by Scott Odell. I just read that this year to support some of the clients I tutor, so that was a very cool coincidence. Anyways, every 10-ish minutes, this lovely humming song would play, and a projection would shine across the replica whale bones, evoking the shining reflection of water on cave walls. Also, this installation invites you to remove your shoes and enter the structure. I walked gently across the shells, I'm pretty sure, enjoying the crunch made by my feet. The altar-like space contained artifacts and clay effigies to animals, humans, and the daily life of the island. The key aspect of this story is Tamawumal, the indigenous woman who lived alone on this island for nearly 20 years after the rest of her community was moved by Spanish missionaries in the 1700s. This aspect makes the human effigies so much more poignant as they hang from the tips of the whale bones and as they form a collective behind the dwelling. One person hangs apart from the group, perhaps referencing the memory of Tamawumal as she continues living in concert with the land, but apart from human community. Next is another audiovisual installation that made an impact on me. Souvenir by Ohan Bredding and Shagig Halajian begins by exploring the personal story of Mineko, who survived the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. This was kind of my first time conceptualizing the actual lived experience of a tsunami. I've always imagined it in an awestruck way, what it must be like, but never the true trauma and experience. I love the video's use of both horizontal and vertical footage, as well as the ASMR-type clips of water and ocean interspersed between interview footage.
Reality is you lost somebody, but you don't accept it. You dream that something will change. After some time, this stays, but gets more distant.
The video then transitions into an exploration of rafters, life forms that attach to the plastic that becomes widely dispersed across the ocean during an event like this.
Entirely new habitat into a journey that ended up being the longest in time and space rafting that we have ever observed in the oceans. There are still many drifting and arriving today. They would have to be 10 years old and survive that trip, or they would have been reproducing on these floating islands.
This relates directly to the photography installation Rafters by the same artists. They display images of the buoys, wood, and plastic debris that have acted as rafts for the decades-long transmigration of these various species. Okay, now we're going to level 2. The staircase contained probably my personal favorite installation. I absolutely love this style of art with the vivid cultures and the depiction of various fields of influence and connections by taking inspiration from scientific diagrams. These images are painted on sailcloth with acrylic, oil, beach tar, pastel ink, and somehow ocean fog by Marcos Lutiens. This one depicts the many variables at stake in the debates around decommissioning oil rigs off the coast of California. There are corresponding paper-based sketches that explore the possible uses for decommissioned oil rigs, working with creative imaginations for future possibilities of human industries. I like the distinctions between acceptive, speculative, and visionary ideas for rig transformation. I truly love this section of the exhibit. The colors are gorgeous, and the imagination involved is so enjoyable to interact with and sit with. There are even beanbags for people to sit and really spend time immersing themselves in the art, which drapes from the ceilings and the walls. Okay, so on level 2, there are 2 blackout rooms with projected audiovisual content. The first room, I unfortunately did not get much information on. There was a lady speaking over what looked like Zoom, a screen recording scrolling through Google images of fish, and a close-up of salmon meat. Personally, I preferred the second room, which contained wall-to-wall projections by Cecilia Visunia, called La Noche de las Especies. Visunia depicts a prehistoric ocean floor where life is just beginning. She mixes letters and patterns to evoke the beginning of consciousness at the cellular level. I think it also reminds me of DNA, with the nucleic bases acting as a cellular language. Anyways, I didn't stay in there for long, so there is so much more I didn't see. Next was probably the most anxiety-provoking piece, Connect 27,000 Dots by Beatriz Jamarillo. To quote the label, the piece depicts the horizon off the coast of Palos Verdes at sunset looking out across the Pacific Ocean. The peacefulness of these images is interrupted by tiny perforations on the photograph's surfaces that spell out dichlorodiphenyl trichloroethane, something like that, alluding to the 27,000 to 500,000 barrels of the toxic material known as DDT that now lie on the seafloor. Okay! Each little silver dot running along the shelf at the bottom of the pictures represents a barrel of DDT. You think, oh, that's crazy, and then you follow it down and you think, oh, That's really crazy. There are so many dots. Anyways, beside it, we come to another audiovisual installation, this time by Paul Rosero Contreras, called Dark Paradise 2 on Restoration and the Future. The video features some wonderful underwater ASMR sounds as it highlights the study of bioacoustics, sounds from active, healthy coral environments. Along with the video, there are these sculptures that show an idea for creating a hybrid form of coral and plastic, acknowledging the permanent impacts of humans on these environments and creating a vision for how to combine the two. Then, in the far corner sat Gut Technics by Sean Connolly, investigating the historical connections between military technologies and scientific data collection in the Pacific. It features Argo floats and conceptualizes the ocean as a sort of planetary gut, which we expect to digest these technologies, when really we should be treating it as an elemental gut brain in which we work with in tandem. The projection on the back is called 10,000 Heea, I think that's how it's pronounced, and features a conceptual mapping of a Hawaiian ahupua'a, a historical land division, including depictions of elevation and remote ocean data points. Of course, I couldn't help put my hand in it. Next is a set of 5 TVs featuring footage of tuna in their natural habitat in the outflow of a New Zealand river. I wasn't sure if it was the same video played in a staggered way or if they were all playing footage from different days. But I thought it was very interesting and cool to see, underwater what tuna is like, even though it's a little scary, to be honest. Then there was this very puzzling installation by Isabel Beavers called Tomb Keeper's Rise. So there's this hanging sculpture that dances with projections and then rests on a bed of salt at the bottom. I'm not sure what the salt is meant to represent, but the label describes the sculpture as representing 500 million-year-old fossils of stenophores. I looked them up and that tracks, though. They do look like that. Anyways, the projection explores the prospect of deep-sea mining for polymetallic nodules. There are 3D models of these nodules rotating in front of the projection as well. Reading the label, it's actually really interesting because this process is proposed to collect the materials necessary for technology to convert to green energy. However, the mining itself can be extremely destructive. So this installation explores that kind of concept and the cost-benefit analysis of switching to green energy. Lastly, on level 2 is Ana Andrade's deeply personal piece called Last Night at Playas de Tijuana. Andrade presents microscope footage of sand and sediment collected from the polluted beach of Playas de Tijuana on the Mexican side of the border. She presents the sand in a linear collection of test tubes that emphasize the settled separation of the materials, recalling the strict separation of the borders and how it strategically impedes human mobility. I wondered if the missed or spilled test tube was purposeful, but I guess I'll never know. Then back on the bottom floor, before leaving, there are these timber stakes with wires wrapping oyster shells in a concentrated area at the top. It's called, and I'm going to say this slowly, it's another hard pronunciation, Kinyingara Guwinyanba, Study, by Megan Cope. These sculptural formations act as a study in generative land and sea practices inspired by Cope's Kwando Muka heritage. They are accompanied by a video of the same name depicting the use of these sculptures as sea gardens. And finally, there are these 3D resin models by Tiar Ribo and Tian Tian Ye. They depict goddesses, which represent the spiritual and mythological aspects of transcontinental connection and more than human relationships. You can also scan a QR code to spawn your own augmented reality goddess. Anyways, overall, this exhibit was super duper cool and I spent a few hours here wandering around all by myself. And as I said earlier, the exhibit is no longer showing, but you can still buy the exhibition catalog on the website for Oceanside Museum of Art, or I recommend looking for similarly themed exhibits in your area. The combination of climate science and art is growing ever more popular, and it is a great way to get involved in supporting our climate while minimizing the anxiety and fear surrounding it. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Get out there to your local art museums. I promise it will probably be worth it. All right, bye.